2, 3, bust it.
Power Connect Show. Power Connect. Power Connect Show. Power Connect. Power Connect Show. Your reliable program that gives you all the information you need to know about the power sector. Professionals in the industry, electrical products, government agencies, the stakeholders, and many more. Power Connect Show.
Yeah, a beautiful evening to everyone out there. We are here again, ready to go on your favorite program, your darling program. It's the Power Connect Show. Well, maybe you'll be surprised that your program is coming to you in a renewed form, in a repackaged form, in a more refreshing shape. Our sponsors our sponsors remain the same. It's your darling Power Utility Service Provider, EKEDC, Eco Electricity Distribution Company. And the station remains the same anyway, 102.7, and the hour, the time does not change. My own name, I can bet you, has not changed. I am Ademola Ben Cranston Adegoke, ABC Adegoke for short. And you know one thing, that on this program, I'm like a bird that never flies with one wing. I always come with my co-anchor, my twin brother as far as this program is concerned, my co-traveler on the ship of the program, if you like. Or maybe you can even say maybe my co-seafarer on the ocean of the program. I talk of no other one other than Banji Busari, the one you know as BB. But Banji, I know you are raring to connect with the people at home, and they too cannot wait to have you. They can't wait to have us. But before you talk, Banji, have you realized that so soon a quarter is gone? A quarter of
just
the program
like
is gone.
yesterday,
Just
you
like
see,
yesterday.
when you are enjoying a show, ABC, you feel like having more and more and more and more. You never know when a 2-hour movie comes to an end, because probably the movie is very exciting. And our listeners will actually attest to the fact that every edition, we are always in short of time. That is, time has never been a friend of this program. That's to tell you how exciting this show has been since the last 13 weeks. I can actually tell you that the program has lasted one full quarter. It has just come to stay. And it's not just come to stay, it is waxing stronger and stronger.
We should have a word or two of gratitude to our listeners at home.
we will.
Standing by us for
Whether
this
it
one
is
quarter, for these 3 months.
Whether it is
And our sponsors,
yes, exactly.
and of course the studio hands led by the man where they do magic for
Sam, OTV,
Sam and
Northern
OTV.
Stars,
Constantly supporting
and
the
we
program.
appreciate that so much. But of course, our greatest gratitude goes to the organization
That
actually
sponsors.
put down the resources for this to become a reality. Of course, without sponsorship, no matter how beautiful, lovely your ideas are, if they remain in your head.
Call them the flagship of Nigerian electricity supply industry, and you won't be wrong.
And that's why they remain our proud sponsors of this program. It is now Power Connect Show. But you know what, ABC, whether it is EKDC Power Connect or Power Connect Show, our sponsors remain
proudly.
EKEDC.
You can say that again.
And that's why they are doing very well.
Yeah.
They know the right place to actually invest. So, ABC, right time to go for a short break. When we return, of course, we have so much
on the program today.
Something very new.
Dear esteemed customer, Eco Electricity Distribution Company, EcoDisco, hereby advises you against careless attitudes in your daily usage of electricity to avoid electrocution. Electrocution is the passage of electrical currents through a human body, resulting in death. EKEDC therefore advises you to be extremely careful when using electric gas cookers, microwave ovens, washing machines, irons, and so on when plugging in your TV, radio, DVD players, and stereo sets. Do not tamper with or attempt repairing your meter if it develops a fault. Invite Get a qualified electrical engineer. Also, this rainy season, to avoid electrocution or untimely death, be careful not to step on naked electricity wire or engage in any trading or business activity under high tension wire. For any electrical issues you have, call our customer care line on 0708 067 1170 and 0700 123 5666. EKEDC, empowering the quality of lives. ẹ̀yin oníbàárà wa ọ̀wọ́n Èkó Electricity Distribution Company EKEDC ló ń gbà yín níyànjú láti yẹra fún àwọn ìwà ìbìkítà nípa bí ẹ ṣe ń lo iná lójoojúmọ́ kí ìjàmbá iná agbénipa má bàa ṣẹlẹ̀. Ìṣẹ̀lẹ̀ iná agbénipa máa ń wáyé nígbà tí agbára iná mọ̀nàmọ́ná bá gba ara ènìyàn kọjá, èyí tó máa ń sábà já sí ikú tàbí nígbà mìíràn ìfarapa tí kò lè sàn láéláé. Torí náà EKEDC ń gbà yín níyànjú láti máa kíyèsára gidigidi tí ẹ bá ń lo gáàsì ìdáná, ẹ̀rọ ìfọṣọ, ti ìfọbọ́, ti ìlọṣọ àti bẹ́ẹ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀ lọ. Ẹ ṣọ́ra pẹ̀lú wáyà tẹlifíṣàn, rédíò, DVD player, gílóòbù tàbí sọ́kẹ̀tì iná tó wà lára ògiri ilé. Bákan náà, ẹ má tọwọ́ bọ mítà tó bá bàjẹ́ o, torí pé ikú òjijì ni iná agbénipa. Ẹ̀mí yín sì ṣe iyebíye sí EKEDC. Ẹ pe akọ́ṣẹ́mọṣẹ́ iná mọ̀nàmọ́ná tàbí kẹ́ ẹ pe nọ́mbà ẹ̀ka ìtọ́jú oníbàárà wa 0708 067 1170 àti 0700 123 5666. EKEDP, àwa là ń fi agbára fún ìgbé ayé ẹ̀dá tó yanrantí.
You are welcome back. Like we have said, the program today it's going to be another very, very interesting
Very
session.
well loaded, ABC.
Very, very interesting session.
I think we should just launch the topic straight away.
Okay, you know that the Nigerian electricity supply industry is a value chain that stands on a tripod. You have the generation, the transmission, and the distribution that is at the end point. And between these three, anything can happen that will truncate the whole process. And that is why today we are looking at issues that may happen that will be beyond the control of the DISCOs, or one of which Èkó Electricity Distribution Company is. There are issues that can happen, and those issues will be beyond the control of the DISCOs. So of course,
in essence, what we are trying to push across today is to let you know that DISCO EKEDC, for instance, as much as is willing and committed to uninterrupted power supply to all its customers and clients in its coverage area, there are sometimes issues beyond its control that may make that dream, that vision, that effort unattainable. And that's why sometimes at home, users or consumers say, oh, why has EKEDC not giving us light for 2 days? Or why is it not giving us light for maybe 2 hours or 4 hours or whatever? Now, the issue we're actually extraying on this edition is that there are issues, just like my colleague has said, it's a value chain, the distribution, the transmission, and then the last point is the generation, the transmission, and the last point, distribution. The distribution is the one that you are relating to, that's as customers, as consumers at home. Well, those other factors that may make it impossible for the DISCOs to reach you or to supply power 24 hours are the issues we actually want to look at today on the program. So, ABC.
Yes, now, we are looking at what is normally
as a consumer at home. What I would love to know is why the distribution is not giving me light. Now, the distribution may probably have some reasons of some challenges beyond its control. Those challenges, you are saying, they may come from either the transmission,
they can come
or
from
the
generation. But we also need to say that we have said issues beyond the DISCOs, but it doesn't really mean that even those ones too, they are happy about the situation. You understand? But it may also be beyond their control. But we are looking at one of such issues this afternoon, which is what is normally called, system collapse. There is a grid collapse. Grid collapse. There is, when the bulk power is generated, there is a pool into which it goes. And there is also a way to manage that pull, to carry the bulk power to the different load centers. And sometimes there can be an issue. So that is what we will be looking at today. Of course, we have our guests.
For us as consumers, sometimes the frequency of such collapses make the listeners sometimes to jump to the conclusion that could there have been sabotage? Could there have been deliberate effort or maybe acts on the part of certain maybe fifth columnists or some other individuals or some other interested stakeholders that may be responsible for the Greek collapse? You recall that though we have experienced stability over a period of time, but before then, there were a series of collapses that Nigerians began to ask what could be responsible for this frequency of the Greek collapse.
Anyway, let us not preempt our guest, who is on standby. He will be calling in. He is a well-experienced
industry player.
He's a well-experienced industry player. And,
all right, our
guest
is here.
In the
so
power
I
sector.
think we should just bring our guest on so that we get to.
So we have with us today. He's been here before. We have with us today a consultant and an analyst in the power industry, Barrister Oyebode Fadipe. Barrister Fadipe, you are welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. Good afternoon, listeners.
Thanks so much.
Good afternoon. It's our pleasure to have you again on the program. Each time you come on the program, you leave us with greater value. So you are welcome.
Thank you very much. You guys are doing great for the power sector, and I'm sure the players themselves are delighted that I think this is the first power sector specific program that I know of.
Thank you.
It is a commendable effort, and I want to salute the sponsors of the program. I hope other market participants will take advantage of this kind of opportunity and then go out there to educate the masses.
Thank you
very much.
So we do not enjoy that luxury of time. So we've got to hit the ground running. You've had us, introduce the topic about, one of the issues within, the NESI is, grid collapse, or otherwise known as system collapse. Maybe you want to, for the benefit of those at home who really will not understand what really is system collapse and what causes it, we want you to please say one or two things about it.
Thank you so much. I'll go straight to the point. You have laid the foundation by saying that the NESI, or the Nigerian power sector, is a tripod, which means it runs on three legs.
Yes.
Generation being the first leg, transmission being the second leg, and distribution being the third leg. Now, when you talk about the grid is like a spider web. It's a web of wires crisscrossing the entire country in such a way that every part of the country is connected. Every part of the country is connected at one point or the other. Now, in terms of grid collapse, what does grid collapse mean? Grid collapse is a situation where the entire grid all over the country is out at the same time as a result of several factors. It could be from the generation, it could be from transmission, it could be from distribution. And I love the way you couch the topic. Activities or incidences that are beyond the
discourse
ability of the discourse.
Yes.
But it's not just the discourse alone that you have that kind of situation. Even with transmission, you have situation that is outside of their sphere of control.
Yes, I had said that.
And I'm glad you made that. You made reference to that. There are situations that are outside of their sphere of control. Even generation, there are situations that are outside their sphere of control. Take generation, for instance. When there is no gas supply, that could be. That could make it impossible for generation to be at work. As about 3 or 4 days ago, the generation people still said there is installed. 14,000 installed capacity. customers must know that there is a difference between
Installed capacity and actual capacity.
Available capacity,
Yes.
and then utilized capacity.
Yeah.
So there is installed capacity, there is availability, and there is utilization.
Utilized.
All of these things, they have their implication in the power sector. So coming back to the issue of transmission, we see that transmission for 421 days was able to, before 15th of September last month, transmission was able to keep the grid for 421 days. And then all of a sudden we saw a collapse. Not just one, but another one happened again. And then, of course, the one that happened initially, I think on the 14th or on the 15th, was as a result of fire outbreak on the Kainji Jeba 330 kV line. Now, that speaks to the fact, that speaks to one of the reasons that can bring about a collapse. Because when there is a sudden outage on one of the major lines of the transmission company of Nigeria, it will lead to a sudden drop of load, and that will automatically mean that there is a ramping up of the frequency. If there is a ramping up of the frequency, that is dangerous for generation. So they must find a way. If it does not go down, if the station does not shut down its own, or if they don't shut it down, they must find a way of making sure that it doesn't create that damage. So in order for it not to create that damage, the system has to take itself out so that machines are not destroyed, and then you have more catastrophe in the network. So Nigeria operates at a frequency of 50 hertz at any point in time. If it goes beyond that 50 hertz, there is problem. If it goes below the 50 hertz, there is problem. It must, what is generated at any point in time must be consumed at any point in time. The power structure or electricity is such that you cannot store it.
So in other words, there must be a balance between generation and consumption.
Oh, definitely. That they call it push and load.
Yeah. The
push must be equal to the load, and the load must be equal to the push.
Okay, now, Barrister Fadipe, now we understand the cause. But I want you had said just now that after stabilizing the grid, after attaining that grid stability for 421 days, we started having the grid collapse almost in torrents. You understand? And we're almost having them almost in torrents. Can we start reading meanings beyond, technical failure or operational glitches into those experiences? Are there some other things that maybe we need to look at? Because it's like maybe you announce that, we attained this level, and suddenly, the opposite started happening. Maybe could there be people who were not happy? To
the extent of reading meanings, you really took the wind off my sail. I was going to say that if the grid was maintained for 421 days and suddenly we have collapses, then we need to look more critically. The Yoruba people will say the witch cried yesterday and the child died today. Who else will you hold responsible? Now, what are we trying to say? There are conversations around the fact that this may have been as a result of sabotage, human intervention, because fire outbreak occurred on two different locations on the same line that is feeding, for instance, Niger Republic, and people are beginning to ask questions. So the fire outbreak that occurred on the Kainji Jeba 330 kV line, fire outbreak in Birnin Kebbi. Birnin Kebbi houses the transformer that feeds Niger Republic. The 330 kV transmission line also feeds Niger Republic. So people are beginning to ask questions. What could be happening if we have maintained the grid for 421 days? Why is it that those who were working there have been replaced? Have they brought in inexperienced people? What exactly happened? Is there a human intervention? Is there a kind of... So people are asking questions. But what is almost very clear at this point is that there are strong reasons to think that there is sabotage somewhere. And that's why there is a concerted effort to work with security agencies to, as a matter of fact, the Honorable Minister of Power, when he went to the National Control Center in Osogbo, made allusion to that fact that we think that there is sabotage. I'm speaking of Chief Adebayo Adelabu, the current Minister of Power, who is promising us 20,000 megawatts in a very short time. We just hope it's not political megawatts.
All right. Our guest, yes, so much on the possibility of sabotage. Let's look at the opinion of certain people who are also leading to the fact that it may have also occurred. The frequency of the grid collapse may have happened as a result of the old age of our facilities that are crying for upgrade. Or what do you see about that?
Now, the reason, again, the question you have asked is germane. I must commend you for that, because it suggests to me that you are following the trend in the power sector. But you see, the fear that we have is that the equipment that we are accusing of obsolescence are now being replaced. I can tell you for free that transmission has done about 26 projects within 2020 to 2023. For instance, in that same Lagos where you reside, transmission has put 2x300 MVA transformer in the place called Alagbon, the same Alagbon, and then Lekki, and the transmission has about 30 projects for Lagos alone. Lagos alone. In Abuja, the information available to me shows that they have about 15 projects. Transmission has 10 regions all over the country. And in all of these regions, whether Kano, whether Port Harcourt, whether Bauchi, all their regions scattered all over the country, Benin, Ikeja. I mean, there are at least 10 projects going on all over the country, including the almighty SCADA. SCADA is a project that transmission is very passionate about. Why? Because it gives them the opportunity to see the entire grid, and they are able to take decisive action.
You're talking about Barrister Fadipe, you are talking about the supervisory control and data acquisition equipment.
Data acquisition device.
Okay.
It helps them to gather data, analyze the data, and take decision at real time. The current SCADA that they have is not serving the country properly, so they are expanding that network. I know that as at 25th of August this year, they have concluded the contract award to Chinese company that is, very vast with such technology, and they are working already. I know that the project has gotten up to 41%. So transmission is doing everything to make sure that they bring their equipment up to the current level that is supposed to be. So the issue of obsolescence of equipment, we cannot go in that direction too far. I agree that certain equipment require replacement, but we want transmission. For instance, transmission has 20 years development plan. All we just pray for now is that there should be consistency of implementation. Okay. There should be release of funds. The way our economy is going is frightening, I tell you the truth. Because dollar is at least 1,000 naira to a dollar, and you know we have parity. There's no difference between the official rate and the secondary rate. Again, all of those ones are giving us concern. But let's hope and pray that God gives our leaders the wisdom to be able to manage our economy in such a way that it will not distort all of these projects that transmission has lined out for implementation.
Still on our guest, Barrister Fadipe, thank you so much. I know you are so passionate about this, and I know that your dreams as far as the power sector would actually come to reality. Now, let's still talk going forward. Let's talk more on the infrastructural issues. There's a concern by stakeholders that with the provision of the 2023 Electricity Act that allows for multiple mini grid in addition to the central grid system. How are we sure of achieving this? The desired goal between the central grid and the mini grid, such that we won't be having constant grid collapses and all of that. So, in addition to the main grid, there's strong suggestion that we can also equally have mini grids to complement. So what do you think?
Now what people are saying is that because now we have a monogrid system and there is a problem. We are having problem, and with the discos are the receiving end, they can't get enough power, like we have said. Now, by the provision of the 2023 Electricity Act, there will be multiple mini grid. How are we sure that we will be able to achieve a sync in the grid, such that we won't be having a grid collapse?
Now, the sync that you are talking about, it has been accounted for and will continue to be accounted for through the multiplicity of projects that transmission is having. One of the ways by which I will address your question is to say that transmission has a ring system rather than a radial system. A radial is a single line transmission network, but a ring allows you to backfeed, to interconnect the entire transmission network in such a way that where there is challenge with one area, you can cut off the offending thumb or offending finger. For instance, if there's weekly or more, you can put that one aside and then backfeed the community from another source. So you can see the benefit of a ring system, so that area that is having problem is not completely thrown out, and the economy of that state, the social activities of that state are grounded to a halt. No. So transmission is waiting patiently for the 36 states of the country that are coming into the market, plus the Federal Capital Territory that is coming into the market to become players. Transmission is waiting for them. When I had a conversation with the transmission people, they were excited about it. And I'm equally excited because, I've been in the power sector for close to 4 decades. So I understand what it is to have more power in the grid and then be able to provide customers with electricity. I wish at a time like this that we have 40,000 megawatts in the grid, 50,000 megawatts in the grid. The pressure on petrol and gas today would have dropped sharply.
Okay, because of time, because we are, like I said, we do not enjoy that luxury of time. In fact, our time is almost up. I just want to, what the average Nigerian wants is power. Whether you talk of all that you have read out on the transmission side, so long the power still cannot get to the end user and to the load centers, we will not feel the impact. Now, what do you think can be done so that, you've said all that you have said about the transmission projects, but the man in Ajegunle, the man in Okoko, that man in Lekki, that man in Aja, that man in Idumagbo, and that man in Ikoyi here is saying, I do not still have enough power. What do you think can be done?
Now, for me, one.
And that will be your pattern. And that will be your pattern shot.
Exactly. One unique thing about the power sector is that it's a tripod. You cannot develop one at the expense of the other. So, just as we are seeing a lot of traction in transmission, I'm sure, I may not know, but I'm sure that a disco like ECO is also doing a lot in terms of improvement of its network. Okay. There is what is called daily allocation nomination. The disco is allowed to say, I can take this amount of power. And I think at the last count, a core disco is one of the discos that is taking so much power. Now, that is one side of it. Another side of it is that customers must be ready to pay. Yeah. There's no doubt about that. Yeah. They must be ready to pay. If they are not paying their bills, they should not expect quality power supply. I'm sorry, I'm being extremely blunt, but that's the bitter truth.
Barrister Fadipe, you've thrown so much insight into today's conversation. We can't thank you enough. Well, we will always call you, and I believe that whenever we call you, you will always answer us.
ABC, you know what? While we are thanking Barrister Fadipe, we must not lose sight of the fact that the people for whose reason we actually put this program on here, the listeners out there, are not able to actually interrogate him or interface with our guests today. Because I'm sure they would have asked one or two questions. So let's apologize to them. They are very important. We have not left them out. Next week is another day. Definitely you'll be part of. Of course, there are days that we've thrown the entire 30 minutes open.
There was a day we had People's Assembly.
So don't worry, next week is another day. My name is Banji Busari. Barrister Fadipe, please ensure that you follow up and then do all you can to achieve all the dreams you have actually expressed on this edition of the program. Thank you for your time.
Thanks
we
so
sincerely
much.
appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, sir. And from here, that will be the program for today. Next week is another day, and we'll be waiting to connect with our customers, with our listeners rather, once again. From here, I am Ademola Ben Cranston Adegoke, and on behalf of my co-anchor,
Banji Busari. See you next week.
2, 3, bust.
And many more.